Hi, welcome to my channel.
Hey, welcome to our next sketching demo. Today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be sketching Geo Primitive Forms. Now obviously the basic forms that we all know of is the sphere, the cylinder, the cone, and the cube. But when you start to go into each of these primitive forms and create features, introduce features such as cutouts, recessed details, another slice of material subtracted out from the middle, and so on. What it does is it creates a different set of surfaces and conditions that we all need to learn to render as designers. So what we're going to do today is we're going to dive in and share with you a process that'll help you identify and render these very quickly and very easily. Okay, so we're going to start off with using our 2-marker technique, using number 3 and a number 5, either cool or warm gray. We're going to use cool grays today. And then what I'm going to introduce here that's a little different than traditional drawings, I like to go in with pencil work. And what this does is the pencil line will help us determine and analyze what's really happening with these surfaces very lightly. And once we have these guidelines created, we can then more easily know where to apply the value of marker to create that more three-dimensional effect. And then at the very tail end, what we'll do to finish off the drawing, as we always do, is we'll come in with thick and thin Sharpie black line work. And what that does is it helps strengthen the particular forms, cast shadows and highlights, and also finishes off the drawing very nicely. Okay, so let's get started. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of push away some of these art supplies here, and I'll remove this little backing paper so we can get a little closer look. And we're also going to zoom in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and see if I can pop in just a little closer. Okay. Let me just shift down a little bit. And I'm going to start off with my number 3 cool gray. All right. Now, what I like to do, as you all know, is I like to go in right in with the broad nib. Okay, because we have to remember broad nib markers have three surfaces. You have a let me just kind of pull down my page now a little lower. You have your broad, right? You have a medium, and if you rotate 90 degrees, you'll have a thin line. All right. So between those 3 line weights, we can definitely get some control over our sketch. So what we're going to do to begin our sketch is we're going to first think about where the light source is going to be coming from. Now what I have here on this worksheet is the light source is going to be consistently coming from the left side. So what I'm going to first do is create the shape of the highlight. Okay, in this case we get a spherical, it's going to be round. And then what I'll do is I'll work backwards and work with the core shadows. Okay, now you remember the core shadow, right, on the sphere. It's deepest, furthest opposite of the highlight. And then it's going to want to try to wrap itself around in a tapering fashion, just like that. Okay. Let's go down and knock off each one as we go down this row. Okay. We have light source coming from the left again. Cylinder. All right. Highlight's going to be here. So our core shadow is going to be right here. Okay. Again, opposite the light. Same thing here. And you see the difference here between this and the cylinder? Because of the triangular shape, you're going to get a tapered core shadow. Okay, so make sure that that starts and tapers outwards towards the bottom. All right, and obviously the cube, this is a no-brainer. Just come down here and just make that your darkest value. Okay. All right. Now the next thing you want to do is you want to think about your halftone. So what we usually do with this technique is we'll take the same number 3 marker and we'll strengthen right inside the core. Okay, and then you go ahead and start to work towards a highlight. Okay, and what we're applying here is a scrub technique. The scrubbing technique will allow you to do a circular pattern, and what that does is it allows you to get a more gradual gradient working towards the highlight. All right, the same thing here. Go into the core first to strengthen that, and then come back over and come back over again. All right. Same thing with the core shadow on the cone. You go triangular. Okay. And then come back in with the halftone. And the same goes double here for the cube. Go into the core shadow and then come over the second time here. All right, see how you get, let me zoom in so you can see a little closer. You see how it's darker here, right? Our number 3 value. We have our number 2, number 3, number 2, number 3, number 2, number 3 right here in the middle, right? Close to the middle. And then you have your scrubbed number 2 surface. All right. Now for this particular sketching technique, I think this is all we're going to do. If you want, you can always come back over. If you want to put a little value on the top side, I'd put just a little bit at the front and just turn your marker, okay, to the narrow side and just create a gradient going back. And that's all you need to do. All right. Now, as we move into some more complex drawings, I'm going to do maybe just 1 or 2, and then we're going to go ahead and move on to the next video. But I think that you guys get the idea. This is forms the basis of all the drawings that we're going to do. So let's take this one right here. Okay, we're going to skip over this one here. This one's pretty simple. But we're going into this one. And the thing you want to remember when you're thinking about these forms that have subtracted volume is you want to draw what you know, okay? That's the first thing you want to do. When I look at this, I relate this back to the cone, or not the cone, but the cylinder. And the area that I find that I can identify quickly with is the core shadow, okay? Because I know that part of the cone is correct, or the cylinder. I know it has a little halftone coming along the side, all right? What I also know is that this is a number 2 side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and make that darker. Now you see what I did was I stopped right at the beginning of the fillet. Let me see if I can get a little closer here. Okay, you see right in here? Okay, you see where my mouse is pointing towards? There's a radius in here. So what you got to do is you got to have practice a little restraint here, okay, and try not to let marker value enter into this fillet area. All right, and then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and finish it off. Okay. Now we know that this is the shadow side, so we'll go ahead and stroke down a number 2 value. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to go in, maybe skip the highlight and come into the flat surface and go horizontal to the picture plane, just like that. And you see, you have to reserve this highlight for this form to read. All right. Now this is starting to get a little bit of marker saturation. Go ahead and make it a little darker. All right. Now I'm going to go back in very quickly. Now I'll show you how to finish these off. Let me zoom out just a little bit so we can see them all together. Okay. All right. Maybe not so far out. Okay. So what I usually like to do is I'll go ahead and take my Sharpie, and you see how I have a broad nib Sharpie here. I'll go in and I'll strengthen the line weight right at the base of the object. And I'll gradually, pardon me as I rotate my canvas, and I'll just come back around very lightly. Okay. And you see what I do is I strengthen the line weight on the shadow side of the object. And what that does is it kind of reinforces depth, and it gives me good contrast in the sketch. Okay? Again, you see thick line weight here and all the way around. All right. Now, what we'll do now is we'll come around with our thinner line weight. Okay? And this is the Sharpie Ultrafine, so we'll go ahead and rotate that. And we'll come back in and strengthen the line weight around the opposite edge, which is where the highlights are. Okay. And again, if you should happen to let your lines go past the object, that's fine. This is draw through. This actually helps the drawing look a little more spontaneous, and it'll actually afford you a much straighter line as you're sketching. Okay, so don't forget the draw through. Let me write that down. Draw through. Okay. All right. And we'll go ahead and do this one as well. Okay, so there you have it. That's a great introduction to the sketching forms exercise. And again, we used a number 3. And now, luckily, we didn't have to use a number 5 marker, but there's going to be situations on my next video where a number 5 marker is really going to come in handy. And we stay tuned to that video. You'll see how we put it to use. All right. So thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next video. Thanks.